and welcome back to my channel, and if you are new, then a big huge welcome to you. Today's video is going to be something that's really quite relevant to everybody, but most particularly on the autistic spectrum. And today I'm going to be talking about social media and how addictive it can be. And this came when I was talking to Connor about it the other day. As me and Connor were talking, we both agreed that social media can have its benefits, but also it can have its negatives as well. And I was going to do something similar to that, but Connor suggested that I really should go for it. And please bear in mind, this is not a collab, but instead this is going to be a little shout out because Connor has already talked about social media in his talk that he recently did earlier this year. And if you want to have a look at his talk on his main channel, I will leave a link in the description and in the card above as well. Social media wasn't really a big thing when you look back to the early days, especially in the late 90s to the early noughties. But now, since the middle noughties, we have big access to social media. Social media can be an easy thing to gain access to. And as far as I know, including the people around me, they have said that social media can absolutely bring masses of confidence. And this includes many different things as well. Sometimes people on the autistic spectrum can be very nervous talking to people in real life, and this includes me. I really feel uncomfortable talking to a person sometimes, especially if it's someone that I haven't seen for quite a while. But also I can get pretty nervous or a little bit quiet whenever I'm around people I know and trust. And this is not me being very nasty, but this is just me trying to actually have a little bit of quiet time and just to try and control my nerves a little bit. And I don't know why, but I think that's just me, and I've always been like this. But ever since I started using a lot of social media, I found that my confidence and my communication skills have improved dramatically, especially when it comes to my YouTube friends. When I first got to know my friends within the YouTube community, I had no clue what to do. But when Connor introduced me face to face on FaceTime, I thought, I never really thought of that. Why did I not look at this before? And to be honest, I was terrified. I was really terrified. But once I started to feel comfortable, I realised that it was very okay. It was Connor's idea to do FaceTime because he wanted to get to know me as a person before we can meet in real life. And I thought, again, that was a really brilliant idea. And I try and do the same with most people now, particularly my friends who live very far outside of the YouTube community, but I still feel a little bit terrified about it, but not as terrified as I used to be. And again, it could be the same for anybody. Sometimes people prefer face-to-face conversation, or they can prefer DMs, like sending messages on Twitter, Instagram and Facebook. However, there are some drawbacks on social media, especially when it comes to addiction. I have touched on this subject before because I had to study addiction for my final major project at Chicken Shed. Social media was one of the 3 addiction topics that we have covered, but by we, I mean me and my class peers. And when I was actually rehearsing with them and performing, I never realised how addicted I can be to social media. And to be honest, I still feel addicted. And I know it's very naughty of me, but yeah, I've got a lot of... However, it's not just addiction. There are so many negatives about social media, and sometimes these very big negatives, they can have an effect on somebody, and sometimes people will feel frightened about it. And these can include catfishing, when someone pretends to be someone they're not online, cyberbullying, which is one of the main reasons why it can affect a lot of people's mental health, lack of access to 4 or 3G, but it depends what network you go with, but it could be any Wi-Fi that's outside the home, but if you do that, it can cost you a lot of money and sometimes you can get into debt, and it almost happened to me. But now I have learnt my lesson and I know that I can't use 4G except if I really desperately need it. There could be so many negatives and I could talk about them forever, but these are the ones that I'm going to be focusing for now. And I know that there's a lot of negatives, but there is a lot of positives as well. But some people can be very worried about their children, their teens, even their children who are young adults like myself. And the main general worries of them are knowing what to do, and if they know that they could be fully independent, knowing the safeties and the dangers of the internet. And I'm going to be finishing off the video with a few tips, and if you are a parent of a child or a teen or a young adult on the autistic spectrum, then I hope that by me giving you these tips they can be very beneficial. And bear in mind, these are the tips that I have experienced and my parents gave me whilst I was going through these situations. I'm not a full expert, but I really wanted to share with you what I've learned as a young adult. My first tip is talk to someone about these subjects. So you can absolutely talk to them about it, like verbally or visually. So if you want to talk about being safe online or on the dangers, and if you want to have a look at a few videos, that's absolutely fine, but it depends what the person feels comfortable with. And once the person knows and understands about the safety and the dangers of the internet, try and slowly tell them what they should do if they feel worried if something happens online, or if they're not too sure about doing things such as sharing bank details, or what to do if a person who is DMing you is a person who you've never met or heard of before. My second tip is to talk to someone who you can really trust, especially when it comes to cyberbullying. Sometimes a lot of people can have a lack of confidence of responding to people who are talking to them or who have just been very negative about them. And I know that I'm not the person who's very comfortable with these things, but it is hugely important. And once they probably know or understand what they should do in this situation, then they can always try and go for it. Or if they feel a bit worried, or if you know that they may not do it independently, try and sit down next to them and just try and tell them what to say. And if the person's not sure, try to repeat slowly and steady. And my final tip is to ask the person questions, but don't overload the people too much, because that's the last thing that you would want, and it's the last thing that they want to. Always try and go slow and steady, but like I said before in the first tip, try and be a bit repetitive, but just go very slow. I have always been used to things like this because my dad always asked me questions about what I should do and how I should deal with it. And these things have stuck in my mind to this very day. And now I have the full confidence about it. I can absolutely talk about it whenever someone's in danger, or if I hear something such as a family member who's been involved in a scam, or if they feel worried if a person's trying to get a hold of their bank details, I try and listen, and then I talk to my dad about it or my mum, because I feel that's very important for me to pick up when I move out independently, or if I'm going to help somebody in the near future. And that's all I've got to say in this video, and with this I'm going to be drawing this to a close. If you have any questions, I'm not really the person to talk to, but always try and watch other videos, or if you're going to conferences, try and ask people who is giving the talk questions, because they are the experts and they certainly know what they are doing. So until then guys, I hope you have a wonderful day wherever you are in the world, and like I said before, I will include Connor's talk in the links in the description and in the cards above, and I hope that Connor will give you a little bit of a more detail on this one, because I didn't really have a clue what to do at first. So until then, have a massively magical day, and as always, keep on dreaming and never stop believing. I'll see you very soon. Bye bye!